Let's cheers it.
Cheers, buddy. Welcome back to another episode of Pins and Crosshairs podcast. This is episode 2. I am drinking a Goose Island hazy beer hug. Pretty good.
Blue smoothie over here.
Ben's got the old bush latte, which is obviously my normal drink, but we're mixing it up, so trying something new. Okay. Well, today we got Ben Wallingford on with us today. This is obviously only the second podcast. My setup's a little bit different today, trying to figure out how to get this all set up legit-like, and it's a complete clusterfuck right now in here, but we're going to run with it. We got it rolling. We got the audio rolling, and glad Ben could come out and shoot a podcast with me, so I didn't have to do this by myself and bore everybody. So
hey, it's pretty controversial to have me on your first guest, but we'll see if we crash your ratings
when
out
you
the
have poachers
gates,
on all the time.
we can just see where we can start out, like, you know, some profane stuff, and then
we'll get to the illegal stuff later.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey man, no, I appreciate you having me on. This is you've talked about it for like over a year here, and we kind of teetered doing it, you know, but it is hard to get us all together. So I'm glad you're doing it. We're here chopping it up finally. So
heck yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where I said this in the first podcast, like anytime I can have anybody on, I'm good with it. Like, it's not like I care about just having a new guest every time, especially if it's like you or Teddy or Jake. I just assume have you guys on every podcast, and, you know, whether we have another guest on or not, it's just more fun to have somebody to have the conversations with instead of just sitting there talking. There's my phone going off again. That's 2 podcasts in a row.
I was going to say, I warned you here about.
God,
I heard it earlier, but hey, maybe that's your thing. That's just it happens, and you guys got to guess the time, and then you win something.
Yeah. So everybody
it's 2 minutes in.
Everybody needs to guess the time for the next podcast of when my phone will go off, and then we'll go from there.
You might get a verdict here.
Yeah, there you go. I'll give away that Matthews verdict. That sucks anyway. I can't kill a deer with it. I mean, I've had it for 6 years and still haven't killed one with it. That's pretty bad.
It's just been a weird year. We just got to get Biden out of there, and then it'll buff out. I think the deer hunting will change once Trump's back in.
It's true. I mean, make deer hunting great again. It's like, was it Kip Campbell? It's got the make shooting does great again or whatever. Make killing does great again. Yeah.
Dude, Don Jr.'s a big hunter. He knows what's up. Things are changing here. We'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll have some more money in our pockets to be able to, you know, buy more gear, even though we've already bought, thousands of dollars of gear over the last couple of years.
I was going to say, somebody needs to maybe throw a little money in our pockets, and we can maybe buy some or get sponsored. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Obviously, I forgot to mention this, but I mentioned in the last podcast, Ben is one of the Drawn Outdoors guys. Kind of a funny story on how it all started. I guess we kind of talk about that a little bit.
Hey, we got a lot of avenues we could take here, so you just lead the way and all.
Yeah, so let's see. It started, I bought a camera, I think it was 5 years ago now, almost 5. It was right when COVID was starting. Also, that was a horrible time of life. And bought a camera because the year prior to that, I had killed a deer with a rifle, but it was a super cool situation and scenario, and I was just like telling the story to everybody, and I'm like, nope, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how cool this hunt was. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a camera and I'm going to start recording everything. And so I did that. Obviously, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll become a cool YouTuber. And I was like, well, that wasn't really panning out the way I wanted it to, but it was still just fun to record. And then Ben actually hit me up on Instagram, and we hadn't talked in like 17 years. I mean,
easily, yeah, dude, since like maybe
we were 14, I think.
14, 15, yeah, freshman ball, baseball.
Yeah. So it was, we played baseball really against each other in Little League. Our 2 teams were the best 2 teams every year.
Right,
every year. We were competitors against each other, and honestly probably really didn't like each other at all, even though, I mean, we were fine, but it was like we didn't know each other that well. Yeah, and it was just like, I want to beat their ass because they're the team that we got to beat to win.
I feel like because we knew each other, though, from districts. You know, like it was like the 2 teams, and then all the best kids on both those teams, and maybe a few other teams were the district team. So then it's like you were like rivals, and then your teammates, rivals. It was
I mean, we were small town back then,
right?
Obviously, so we're in Omaha now, or at least in the Omaha area. And our town was a small town. Eventually got annexed by Omaha, and now we're all just part of the city.
Yeah, we could have all been in the MLB. It just wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were all MLB prospects.
I felt like if I could have stayed at 54 feet, pitching from 54 feet, I would have had it.
Yeah,
but,
if they wouldn't have moved that mound back in high school,
like
easily.
83 at 54 is you add 10, you're there. But
exactly.
Then I just was a batting practice from the rest.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, Ben randomly hit me up on Instagram, and it was funny because I remember seeing your profile at one point, and I was like, "Oh, Ben Wallingford, that's cool." I haven't seen that guy or talked to that guy in years, and he's had his. You had one of your fighting pictures as your profile. Dude. I was like, "Shit, this dude's a badass."
hey, I tried a lot of things, but that was a fun stage in life.
Yeah, but so Ben hit me up, and he's like, "Hey, I see you're recording your hunts. Like, I've been doing that too." And he's like, "Your stuff looks great," and so that was kind of it. And then like I don't know, it's probably 6 months later or something like that. You were like, "Hey, I'm going out to my brother's house to plant a food plot. Saw you just got a drone. You want to come out and film some stuff?"
Right.
So I was like, "Sure." So we went out there, filmed a little cool food plot video. At least we thought it was cool anyway.
Yeah, dude, it was dope. I mean, if you haven't watched it, you got to watch it.
It's the first video on our YouTube channel. It really is nothing besides just like cool shots.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're gonna like do a poor man's plot, that's by far the coolest video I've seen. But we tried it. We gave it a shot. I think we both started filming this literally the same season.
Pretty much. Yeah. I think you had filmed like. Well, did you start filming the same year I did when you killed that buck? Was it the same year?
Well, so I started that. It would have been that same season, and then it was the next season when I saw you were doing it. I was kind of screwing around with it. Jake, we both bought. So I bought one camera. Jake ended up buying that one probably 8-9 months later because we were like, let's try to record some stuff. But yeah, probably the same year, and then we both had a year of footage of just us doing it, and which. We should probably dig through that at some point. It'd be funny to kind of see how far it's come. But
every once in a while, like I'll watch one of my old videos from my first year, and like because my kids always want to watch them and stuff. And I'm like, I remember when I was filming that stuff, I was like, I was so cool. Like I thought I was so good at it. And then like I go back and watch it now, I'm like, this is so bad.
Yeah,
it's like it's embarrassing.
We definitely learned a lot of. I did at least. I shouldn't speak for you guys, but
I learned a lot. Believe me.
If you went back to that, and then just like I used to do just like a GoPro audio with like a GoPro 3 and just you couldn't every one of my videos when I edit it I have to just crank it full and I'm like you still cannot hear this. But
audio is one of the hardest things to do with recording, especially when you're new to it. Like people just don't understand how like hard it is to get good audio.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of stuff I screwed up on, but then like that's the thing that helps you figure out kind of what you want, how you want to. Editing makes you figure out how to film better, I feel like, because then you
understand
how you want to film it, how you want it to look. Some of that, I got props for anybody out there that's editing other people's footage and trying to, tell their story, because it's a challenging thing to do for sure. But,
like when you film your own stuff, you have an idea and you like know what shots you're getting, but when you're just given footage from somebody else, it is so much more difficult as an editor to put something together.
Right,
big time.
We veered off though. We should go back to the. So I hit you up.
Yeah.
I hit you up to go out there. We went out there. We made that video, right? Yep. And then I think after you made the video, we were just like, oh, yeah, that was cool. Let's film another thing. We did that like stand where we just like checked my straps on my stand. Yeah, we went down to the murder funnel there. I hunt that 3-acre. I hunt my backyard 3-acre. It was one of the places I hunt, and it's in the urban area. And so I brought him out to show him the first time, and yeah, we did that, and then I think we just started filming when we started hunting, and then we just started just flowing with it, I guess. But Teddy killed the first buck that year.
Yep.
And then that was the year. Then I killed that buck. We called him Rib Cage.
Yep.
But then it just evolved. We just started doing
we just kind of kept going. I remember after that one day and I made that first food plot video, then we're like, all right, let's do this. Let's start a YouTube channel. And at that point, it was just you, me, and Jake. Hadn't brought Teddy on yet, and we were trying to figure out a name. And Jake and Ashley always had the name Drawn Outdoors, and we probably went through like 80 different names trying to find a better name, and we literally were like, obviously we're making fun of ourselves with some of the names, trying not to be like super gay with a name, but we ended up just going with Drawn Outdoors because that was what Jake had, and Jake was like, yeah, let's just go with that. And so we're like, all right. And so yeah, we kind of started going, and then all of a sudden I kind of brought Teddy on because he was the guy I hunted with for years. So we kind of brought him on. I had a fourth guy, and honestly, the whole group just kind of came together perfectly. Like we all just chat all the time. We're always just having a good time. I mean, yeah, it was more. It became so much fun just because we had this like group of guys that we were always able to hang out with and talk with and do all that stuff. So it really worked out in the long run, and it's been a blast for, 5 years now? 4 years?
Dude, what was crazy about it is, like, we all talk pretty much every day, which is sweet. I mean,
my wife makes fun of me all the time because my phone's literally just pinging all the time. She's like, I wonder who that is.
Yeah, you should have the wives on. They could just lay into us.
Oh, my gosh.
Give them just a 2-hour slot. Let each one of them just
I
go.
don't know, 2 hours is enough.
Hey, you get them wine, and they'll let us have it. But no, they're awesome. But it's been fun. It actually brought me and Jake closer as brothers because we always, hunted, and then I would hear, like, maybe once a week how his hunts were going. Now it's like when he's in the stand, I'm getting texts from him.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're texting just him and I. Like, it's a fun camaraderie for sure, and you definitely – it just makes it more enjoyable when you get something or when you're out there and you're like, dude, I've complained – how much, like 70% of the season is just me complaining about how I hate deer. Yeah. And deer don't exist, and they're from a different dimension, and then they just pop into ours, and then they just leave. And that was what Teddy was saying the other day. They're in a different dimension right now. They're not around.
That's how it feels. I mean,
we're
that's how
in
it
December,
felt for me too.
so it's like this has been the fastest hunting season for sure for me. Yeah. And by far the crappiest one in terms of just I had so many big deer, and then they just
ghosted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally unreal. Like deer I've had using one of my spots for 4 years. It's basically like I'm growing these deer type of, you don't have a big farm to do that on, but because I'm in urban, a lot of these deer don't get very much pressure from hunters. There's like that public spot you can draw, who knows how far away from me, but I'm not giving away my spots, guys. But, it's a low pressure area. So some of these deer, I'm like, oh, cool, I'll let them go one more year. And I did that a bunch last year. And then this year, they probably were just skirting me, doing whatever. But
yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, you had Reggie, that one deer. I mean, you've had him for 5 years now, essentially. And he finally blew up this year and was around all summer, and then a week before season just disappeared.
Yeah. And then he came through one time at night, like at the end of the rut. So that's one of the things. I mean, I've had a lot of deer this year where I'm like, dang, I got options at permission spots. I mean, kind of everywhere.
You did have quite a few on permission spots too.
But they didn't want it. So maybe there's going to be, I'll have like 4 200-inch deer next year.
I mean, that'd be cool.
Yeah. There's only one I would say would make a pretty big jump, but it was fun to get as much time as I did this year, how work kind of laid out for me. But
yeah, same for me. I mean, I was able to kind of hunt as much as I wanted to this year, which worked out well. It just didn't work out that I couldn't find any mature deer. I mean, I saw that 1 8-pointer, and he wasn't like a huge deer, but he was mature, and I couldn't get a shot off at him, and that's the only one I've seen in person that is probably even over 100 inches.
Yeah, that creek, like after seeing it from I've only sat the one stand with you guys, but I feel like you just got to be on the right end of the creek, or they just use that differently in different parts of the year.
It is. It's weird. Like, I mean, we've noticed it now. Me and Teddy have it's about a 2-mile stretch of creek line, and so you would think that there'd be deer all over it, but there just isn't. And I know we lost some deer last year to EHD, which didn't help. So population is down a little bit, but for whatever reason, they all end up going to the neighbor's property to the east because there's a little bit more cover down there, and that's just where they always end up, especially late season. They always all go down there. So during the rut, you can have anything that can come randomly through. And we had
Teddy shot.
Yeah, I mean, that was a deer that we ended up figuring out that I saw 2 years ago. I saw it in person, and then we had some pictures of it. And then it just happened to randomly come through during the rut this year. And I don't know where it came from, whether it came from the west or the east. I don't have a clue, but it just was right time, right place, and
that is the craziest thing about the rut, though. You just get anything and everything. Like this year, I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I've had years where I'm like, there was 10. The year I was tagged out, of course. Yeah. Before the rut, there was 10 different bucks. But yeah, like you said, it's just tough hunting those. We all hunt small properties. Yeah. We don't have very big farms. Any of us
That's the thing. We're like the other 99% of deer hunters that we don't have these massive farms and have these sweet food plots and all these great bedding and timber and stuff. Like we're not those guys. We hunt on permission pieces, and Jake has a small lease, like it's small,
right?
And then Ben's got his urban spot, which is really small. So it's not like we're hunting on these crazy meccas, that a lot of these, pretty much all these other people always have on, YouTube and TV and stuff like that. Like we're regular deer hunters, just like the majority of the population.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to be able to.
Oh yeah, if I could afford like 300 to 500 acres, I would have 300 to 500 acres, and I would be that guy that has all of it. But obviously, we're not.
Get me a mulcher. That's just the one thing I want to drive around in is a mulcher and just buzz down those those guys rent those, or if they buy them, good for them. But
yeah.
I would love to just have different ways to access stuff, because you could change how you hunt so much too. Just you could have just corridors. Like I know this buck's over on this part of the land, and have the best access. And it I mean, you could talk about that for hours alone. But yeah, man, it's fun though, because when we do get one, I feel like it's really rewarding, because
we know how much work and time goes into it,
and just you got to be lucky in this, obviously. Yeah. So. It just makes it more fun. Like I was pumped when Teddy sent that. It was kind of cool to, like, I didn't expect. He was kind of talking like you guys weren't seeing much, and then next morning it starts off with that. And that's what I love about deer hunting. Just the whole season is, you just got to ride the wave, man, because it's a grind for sure. I mean, this year is probably out of the 5 years the most you've been just hammering all day. Yeah, and it just goes to show that you can do all the right things, and then just one time. I mean, you only get maybe 3 or 4 chances a year to really kill a deer if you're hunting like an everyday guy, where you only get that 2-3 weeks of combine all your sits together. It's 2-3 weeks of the year, and you just got to be lucky and hope the rut brings you something. But
yeah, it's just a total crapshoot on whether it's going to work or not anymore.
Right. And it worked out with work for both of us. So we got to hunt like it was our, we were hunting all,
Yeah, once we got
a whole week at a time.
Especially, I mean, late October to, through November, I hunted a ton. I mean, just the way it worked out. But, every year is different. And we've had years where we had a lot more deer around. This year we didn't have as many, but tried to capitalize on a few, but just didn't work out. But I still got... I'm going to go out after Christmas. We're shooting this right now. We're 2 days before Christmas. So I'm going to go out. Every year, I don't know why, but I love hunting like the last 2 to 3 days of the season, just because I just love kind of closing that chapter on, you're really finishing out the season. So I always enjoy going to late season. And honestly, late season, for whatever reason, a lot of times I do see a lot more deer. There isn't much for mature bucks around. There's only probably one that's a nice one that I would shoot. But at the same time, he's one of those deer that I would love to make it to next year, because he could really be real big next year. The hard part is me and Teddy have passed so many deer over the last 5 years, and it's like we're lucky if the next year we see one of those deer again.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know where they go or how they die. I don't know what happens, because they always make it through rifle, and a lot of times they're through muzzleloader. We have pictures too, and there's not many muzzleloader hunters out there anyway. But for whatever reason, they just go somewhere else. And so it sucks passing deer to try and get them a little bit bigger, but they just don't come back half the time.
Right. We just like to inflict heartache on ourselves, just connect with and think we're going to get this deer. And then
I wish I could shoot 100-inch deer and literally be jacked. I wish I could.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad for myself, to be honest, but I just it just doesn't get my heart pumping.
Yeah, dude. If it's like one of those, and that's this time of year, what you're talking about, if it's brown, it's down, and those people that hunt like that, I fully, if that's all the time you have, do you, But yeah, I've had a few times where we went late season antlerless, and Jake, that story that I told where Jake just 250 yards with the 30-aught just rolled that deer. But when you get to that time of year and you're trying to get meat, do your thing. But yeah, when it gets to, you kind of do have that we're this far in, what's that saying? If you wouldn't shoot it on the first day, don't shoot on the last. I don't know. I feel like this year I was next deer that comes by, I'm shooting, and luckily I was able to shoot a decent buck. Something that he was on the where I probably should have passed him. But again, we just talked all that week. We were texting about it and just dude, we passed deer, and then somebody else is, finding them or getting this deer, or whatever happens. And obviously when you're hunting, it's cool to try to see if a deer will get bigger, but it's just hard to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we said, if we had one of those types of farms where we know it's going to hold deer and those deer are going to be there from year to year, like I would love doing that, but we just don't, unfortunately. But deer season's almost over, but we did go out. What was it? 2 weeks ago now, we went out there. 4 of us. It was me and Ben and Teddy and my buddy Phil.
Yep.
And I was hoping to have all of them on today with Ben. I think Phil's working. I didn't even text him because he's usually working during the day, and we're shooting this in the afternoon right now. But I'll have him on another day. And Teddy is in Florida.
Yeah, he's got his toes in the sand.
Yeah,
good for him.
Teddy's probably 12 drinks in right now, and he's on the beach and just having a great time. So
throw a line out, Teddy. Just throw a line out, fish a little bit, enjoy yourself, man.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
I wish I was on a beach.
I wish I was doing a lot of different things. Well, actually, I'm enjoying this right now. But.
Right. Hey, we're on this whole time of year though. Before we go on that road for the hunt there.
Yeah.
This time of year is crazy. Like we live in Omaha, Nebraska, and this just the traffic, all the stuff, and then you're trying to shop for your kids.
Yeah.
Did you get all your kids?
I've got all my kids stuff done. I've only got a couple little more things I need to get, and I know it's going to be a nightmare, and I'm probably going to have to go do that later this afternoon, which is going to be awful.
I would just keep buying my kids stuff, so I just tell myself like, "Hey, we're good." I just go off of how many gifts he's got to open, and there's a lot of it's trinkety stuff this year.
All those mic stands today because my kids just want to sing and play guitar, and so I brought those mic stands home because they were just setting the microphones like on the counter. So I brought the mic stands home, and that was like Christmas to them.
Right,
so I was
dude, you got to give them a couple gifts before because they're going to get from grandparents. Yep. Everybody's going to get them stuff, and then they'll open it all at once, and then you're trying to like, all right, let's save these for.
Yeah,
you know how it is, but it's a fun time of year though. It's just when you get a moment to podcast, you better drink a beer and go, it's
take
fun.
Advantage of it. So we went out to Western Nebraska, which is where me and Teddy hunt, and we went pheasant hunting and in the mornings, and then we deer hunted in the evenings. And that was your first time pheasant hunting.
Yeah, dude, I don't know why that was my first.
I didn't even know it until then, until you came out, and I was like, I didn't realize because you've done so much waterfowl and stuff. I just kind of, and you've hunted, your whole life. I kind of just assumed you had, but
I've never had so my Uncle Don has a couple. Yeah. He had a couple good dogs. His dog now Fenway. I don't know if I've never went pheasant hunting with him, and Don's taken me to be the first person I've hunted with every single thing I've started doing. So it was rifle. My Uncle Don and my dad took me bow hunting. Don took me to get my first bow. He's always taken me bird hunting. I've done a couple, went out to public and shot my gun at some, birds, but never hit any. But for pheasant, dude, I don't know why I didn't get into that sooner because obviously it's fun. But I took my cousin Kobe on a youth hunt. Yeah. And then when we got there, you go with the kid you're taking to the youth hunt.
Right.
And I think he was 11 or 12. And they're like, okay. So the kids don't feel pressure from their mentor. You're going to go with that kid. Then somebody else got to take him.
Really?
And it was I forget where it was at, one of the places close to here. Yeah. But anyways, so I didn't get to see him shoot his first, but he was the only one that brought 2 roosters back. But, nice. Then I took that one kid and we just kind of walked that field. And they had obviously a ton of dogs, a ton of people. Yeah. So you're able to, somebody's going to get a shot, or you can say, hey, put this kid in, in the middle. So, but that was the only time I've gone. And then, yeah, dude, life just got away from me. I didn't hunt for that whole time I fought. So then it was once I started once I shot a deer with a bow, that's all I was about, and then I got a few bird hunts in. But yeah, you guys took me first pheasant hunt, and that was, to me, that was we saw a lot of birds. So that was cool.
Did. I know, that's what I was saying on the last podcast was I was actually shocked at how many birds we saw. I mean, I knew there was a lot of birds out there, but it's getting late in the season. So not as many, and then usually getting close to them is a lot tougher in late season. But they were sitting tight. I mean, those birds were some of those birds. We didn't think there was a bird there, and then Tracker was just going through and just blowing them out.
Yeah. There was a lot of, that first field. We had a couple that popped up as we were walking, but then he got one that flushed up real low and just kind of hugged the grass. But yeah, dude, it was just kind of cool how. I don't know. I mean, you don't really – I've never really thought about I'd really like doing that. Yeah. And, you're obviously hiking essentially, so then you're getting a decent little workout, and just watching Tracker was fun to watch. I mean, he was just and you're telling me he's at the end. I thought he was a spring chicken, dude. He was all over. He just his balls to the walls all the time. But yeah, he was fun to watch. And I think right when he got out of the truck, within the first like 30 yards in, he was pointing at something, and we're like, no way. And then he was on one, and then like that's how quick we got on that first bird that I think Phil shot at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it was just a cool. Like I like waterfowl because, ducks, they kind of come in on you. Geese, you can watch them come in, but I have a short attention. Like deer hunting for me, if I didn't have like a phone or something to distract, so pheasant hunting, you're kind of just alert, and you're going to them. So then you kind of have a little bit of, more, I don't know if it would be like the power, to flush them up and get it, because if you go walking looking for deer, the chances of you shooting a deer very slim. You're going to bump a whitetail and they're gone, And same thing obviously with a pheasant, but it's just cool because a dog gives you a heads up. So you're just going and you're like, maybe over here we're going to get into this thick stuff and flush one up. But I got my first. You guys got me on my first pheasant. That was freaking cool. I got it. I'm going to actually get it mounted.
Did you take it in?
No, it's in my freezer. I wrapped it how he wanted me to, and I'm going to take it in. But
nice. He
said if he can't do the wing, he'll just do it. Full bird.
But I would think you should be able to. The wings were fine. They were in good shape.
But dude, they're so. I mean, that is. I saw some guy call it a ditch parrot on a hunting show, and I was like, "That's kind of ditch chicken." Yeah, and it was kind of. They're really pretty here in Nebraska. I don't pheasant hunt enough to know like. If there's varieties, or obviously. But,
I mean, you can get some like different colored ones that are just like different genetics type stuff. Like there's some pretty cool ones out there, but otherwise, for the most part,
just like turkeys, there's like a couple. But no, that was fun, and then the rest of that hunt was a blast too. We went to a lot of that second field. I feel like we walked our butts off for nothing, but then that brought me to reality of what it was. Because dude, that first field we went, you could have told me we were at a pheasant place. It was just that
lots of birds,
much action, but. Yeah, they just fly over to private where they knew nothing would happen to them, and there's so much. Like I thought they were just, you were telling me, oh, I can smell us walking in. I just didn't even, put that with pheasant hunting,
exactly.
But yeah, it was fun. And then what was the field? That was probably the fourth. We went and got that pizza, and then we
went to that small field.
The one where
that was like mayhem.
Yeah, that was fun, dude.
So many birds.
Yeah, you had. You were the first one that popped those quail up.
Yep. We got them quail up, and then. Which I shot one of those. I think Phil shot one, and then more got up, and then we just kind of we kept walking, and birds just kind of kept getting up everywhere. Then Teddy shot a quail, and we had like 10 birds fly out of the field before we even got to it. 10 pheasants.
Yep.
And then the best part though was when you were walking around that edge after we had pretty much walked the whole field, and you had tracker on. You got to tell about that because that's my favorite part.
That's where I got to see what like Osmond's dog is. So fun to watch, and he tells me he's what 9, 8 or 9? Yeah, and he acts like he's 2 or 3, at least in my eyes. Because I was like, dang, he is just after it. But he got a little tired. Towards the end.
He was hurting.
I feel like every dog, unless you're working them every day, you got to be in even dogs got to be in shape for what we were trying to do. But yeah, it was cool because we were around that. It was like a thicket of trees, but I personally was like. I'm just going to walk. I don't want to obviously walk. Teddy was walking through it. You couldn't walk
through it hardly.
And I'm like, well, I'm going to take the field edge and just kind of take the lazy route because I was like, well, there's no birds that are going to be over here, which that's what taught me like, okay, this is kind of where they probably – I mean, it's just like you see rabbit, where rabbits go through. And I didn't think – that beer. I didn't think that anything was in this area, and there was like all these bushes that were laid down, and it was just thick. Like you literally couldn't see the ground, but he was pointing, and his legs start shaking. So I'm like, okay, he's on something here. But in my mind, I was like, this is where a bird was. I don't know very much about what he's telling me because obviously when you're with a new dog, you don't know much about what he's telling you, Yeah. And so he kind of like. There was like this little hole in the bottom of this brush where it looked like a little rabbit would go through, and he kind of like went under it and didn't go all the way. Like he put his face in, and when he came back, he had like a feather on his lip, but he was like pointing, but he like looked at like it wasn't like he fully looked at me, but he just kind of was like, all right. And then I said, get the bird or whatever, And he just shot into this hole, like his full body just shot in there, and all of a sudden that was a huge rooster too. It just popped out. And it's point blank for me. I mean, I would have had no chance at shooting
Yeah.
it by the time. But it was crazy how they get up.
Yeah,
and
it like went like straight up.
He was
over
like
the trees.
floating, you know. And all I could do is just rooster, you know.
Me and Phil both missed.
Well, we didn't. I mean, if we were going to go to that again, and you were just taking some random person, they're like, "There's no way I have 3 shots in this field." Anyways,
Right.
It's just a small little field.
You wouldn't expect that many birds to be in there,
right? And if you're dialed, then obviously just there's a bird, bam, you know.
Yeah.
But I personally have not shot that gun. That was the first
Yeah.
shot I had with that gun was on that pheasant I shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just cool to see him work and him kind of like. He really does. They just wait there. That breed is so cool to watch because they just wait there, and then he just once he's got the you got him trained well, where he just went in there, and he came right to us after. But yeah, it was just that thing was over the top, and you just gun jam or whatever we call it.
Well, yeah, we had just shot those quail, and we were both using a pump, and we just shot those quail, and then we forgot to eject our shell.
So you were -1 anyways,
and so that we both aimed at the bird and both clicked because we didn't have one in the chamber.
That changed. Well, yeah. Then you only got like 1 or 2, and by that time, once you shoot, shoot once too, they do pick up a little speed. Like they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, then there was another bird actually just around that too. I don't know if anybody shot at that one. Like I thought when we came back around,
we both shot it too, but same thing. It was like the same kind of scenario, and we both just missed. I don't know. It was just bad. We just did not shoot well. But
dude, I don't shoot trap. Like
the
only time I've ever actually shot trap officially was earlier this year.
We shot Jake's. Yeah,
I've thrown like a pop can up, and done that, but it wasn't anything where that was fun. We had a good time.
Oh yeah. It. Yeah, I used to shoot trap a fair amount when I was younger. We used to go out to Joey's house and shoot trap out there at least once or twice a year, but now they don't have that place anymore, so I haven't been shooting trap in years. But
that'd be another thing if you had like a sweet. So I used to do work for a guy that he had like a hunting lodge.
Oh yeah,
just along the river out here, and they had like a pond that was just for shooting trap, and they had all those different stations in a little remote board, and they just out of these sheds, dude.
That's so cool.
And I've never done like we've flung them, but it'd be cool. I don't know if there's a place. That's how unfamiliar I am.
There is a place actually. It's kind of going towards your brother's house, but it's like just it's in between like Bennington and Fremont. There's actually a trap range there, right along the highway.
Now I know what you're talking about.
I've never looked in to see how much it costs or anything like that, but it's a full trap set up there. It looks pretty sweet.
I feel like if we did that before, we probably would have had more birds now.
I think if we had done something, but
yeah, it was a fun trip though. Like you guys, Teddy always says. It's like a different type of hunting, and like when I went to even Imperial, when we hunted that, we thought we were going to go mule deer hunt, and then we were like, hey, I said, I'm hunting on that where there's whitetail. I see them, but it's a different style of hunting than even I'm used to, and that's what it's cool how that varies the terrain and just how you have to think about how the deer are going to go use that small, like look at all this public land we were looking at. They just use that small thicket for maybe a week or two, and then they're just out of there, or you don't even know if they're...
You guys were there like early season too, essentially. I mean, it was...
Right.
Was it September when you guys went?
When we went to Imperial, that was...
I think it was like end of September that you guys went out
September 30th, where normally you're not going to see many deer that time of year, but we had a good time. I mean, but I was... Even there, I was in a saddle, in a tree, and like this... Like, I felt like ground hunting would be... more ideal for where you guys are, and now I see why you guys do that all the time. I'm always like, because there's just some things you just can't. It takes too much time if you're doing the public thing too. I mean, unless you have a whole day to go find a spot, go in. We were going out the last 2 hours. You don't want to like I did. I spent an hour hanging that stand.
And I mean, it would depend on the time of year. Obviously, we're at late season now, where there's not much morning movement. It's mostly evening, but like. Next year, I know Teddy really wants to try and hit some of those spots if they're still public and go like during like prime rut, like before firearm. Because I think if you went to like that spot that you guys went to and went and did like an all day sit in one of those like good spots, I bet you could kill something good on.
Oh yeah, dude. There's not. You really do just have to. You have to be lucky as can be out there on the Nebraska public stuff. But there's deer out there, and like Teddy always says, you just got to go out there and just hope that they're in there because. Like that, where we went that one sit when I went with him, where he went back to. There's obviously deer that are in there. You can just tell everywhere, but you just don't know like
when they're there.
Because there's no food. There's just nothing to hunt. So then you're just like, okay, where are they bedding at? And then
you're trying to get close, but also not blow them out. And
right, Yeah, because I bumped that one. He was just a tight rat. I mean, couldn't tell you how many points or whatever, but you just see a buck, and that was the only. I think that was the only deer besides when we were driving that I saw. But yeah, it's just a fun to get to experience what you guys are doing. You know.
Oh yeah.
We
always have fun out there. That's the main thing. Like, yeah, we'd like to kill more big bucks, but you know, you can only kill what's there. Right. And but regardless, we're gonna have fun while we're out there.
It is like hunting camp.
It is. It's like a deer camp.
You got that house out there. You guys got a cool little setup, and yeah, I mean, deer hunting is just more about to me at least. Like I almost feel like hunting's better when you go in with like expectations to just not see.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had times where I'm like calling my shot. You know, I'm like, I'm gonna kill this buck. I know he's coming in there today. Looking back like 2-3 years ago on my phone, like, oh yeah, he was in here. You know, and then. I feel like if you go in and you're just like, hey, whatever, like, and that's what makes it fun about going hunting with people. Yep. And I'm sure, you know, everybody that has their own form of deer camp, or if you're getting into hunting, you're starting to meet people to, you know, start hunting with, et cetera. And I just think like that's one thing that makes deer hunting fun. And so, you know, just being able to go back to the house and walk in and just let some swear words fly because you didn't see a deer, and then just like, all right, let's drink some beer, you know, and just hang out. Like that makes it. That's what makes, obviously, those trips.
That's what makes hunting fun.
Right,
I mean, I feel bad for him, but it's got to just hunt alone. Like, doesn't have any buddies that do it at all because it's just not as fun. I mean, it's still fun to hunt, but when you have people to share it with and have a good time with, like that's what makes it more enjoyable. Because then, you know, whether you're seeing anything or not, you're still having a good time.
Yeah, that's the thing that's tough too. Is like when you start watching or looking on like Facebook pages, I always get bummed like when there's somebody like they're obviously a newbie.
Yeah.
And nothing against that, you know. Everybody started at some point, but then you get guys on there, and it's just like, dude, what? Like,
everybody's just bashing everybody.
What? Yeah,
hunting. And a lot of times, those people just they don't know, because they haven't learned anything. And a lot of times, they're asking questions to try and learn, and then people are just like giving them all this shit, and just like making them sound stupid. And you're like, dude, these guys, they're trying to learn,
right, dude?
Like, let them learn, help them out.
Like out of everywhere, and there's so many different like. You just wouldn't think that people that hunt would be, you know, be like that to other hunters. But, you know, there's a lot of things in hunting, obviously, you know, like even when you're hunting on public land, all that, you know, it's amazing though. Cause you know, you want to encourage somebody just starting out. I always love when somebody's like, dude, you bow hunt. I'd love to do that. And then you're like, oh, you want to be broke. Cause that's essentially what, that's what you're like getting yourself into. It's just a black hole of just like, buying things. But I encourage everybody to do it because like it's cool to get that close to the deer, to get you know that's
what got me hooked,
right?
And I mean, I rifle hunted my whole life. I didn't bow hunt until 6-7 years ago, and then I did the first year with Teddy, and I had bucks at like 10 yards from me, and I was like, this is insane. I've never been this close to a deer before, because I always would shoot them at 50 to 350 yards. Like,
yeah, rifle. I mean, that's how I started too, though, with rifle. And then it was either that next year or the year after, Don took me to get a bow up at Full Draw. And I bet I've missed more deer even to this day than I've hit with a bow. But at first, like, I had such bad target panic, couldn't hit a single deer.
Yeah.
If you put it at 10 yards, I was missing it. Like, but I would just spaz out, you know? Yeah. So. But it's so hard, and people getting started, you know, you start like you have that where you watch the YouTube or you watch shows and you're like, okay, this is going to be easy. Sweet. They do. And that's the whole point of it, because nobody's going to sit there and grind with you that much and you know, but yeah, once you get a deer, like I feel like I shot a couple deer with a rifle, but I never felt like I got my first, like, you know, that first bow kill. There's just nothing like that. And it doesn't matter what it is to me. Honestly, I would have been cool if I would have hit all the does I shot at, or like I've even shot at little deer, you know, like smaller bucks, and just, I mean, I was just giving deer haircuts just constantly. And but yeah, once you get like your first deer down with the bow, then there's nothing that I personally would get from. I would love to go rifle hunting for a hunting camp.
Yep.
I wouldn't like just go on my own right now. I mean, I might when I get a little older, but right now, if you were like, hey, we're going to go hunting right now, you get to pick one thing. I'm going to grab my bow. We're going to go deer hunt.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the only reason I'm like getting back into rifle now is because my kids are now getting to the age.
100%.
And so that's so much fun for me to get to go with my kids and get my kids on deer. Like that to me is just the best part about it. But otherwise, I sat with a rifle a couple times this year, just trying to kill that one big mule deer because we don't ever have those big mule deer around. But,
and out there, I mean, dude, to get it
out there is so hard to bow hunt
with a bow. Yeah, you might as well just like fling one at 70, 80 yards.
Yeah, you kind of have to if in some of those spots because
you got to be aggressive.
There's like some of the spots that I hunt. There's no trees to get into. It's just all kind of pasture land and then like some CRP and it's going to be a lot of spot and stock, which is pretty tough to do. But
one year you should try to get one of those like predator decoys on your bow though, of a mule deer.
I probably should
because there's that one. That's where some of your biggest whitetails have been in there too.
That's where the big ones have been. Yeah, I know. That's why it sucks because it's like I could go kill them with a rifle more. Have a lot better chance at it. Obviously, if I can just see them.
Just get a doe one.
Yeah,
do that. You guys could probably pull it off. Honestly,
probably I'll try it next year maybe.
But yeah, that's getting your kids into it. I mean, that's obviously everybody that hunts, and if you have kids, that's like I personally I got to take my son hunting for the first time this year. He's 3.
Yeah,
and we're in the backyard, doing the urban thing. So like obviously the deer are a little more, used to smell. Right, they're not as skittish, but they're like harder. Those urban deer like are hard to hunt because of how they move, how they do things.
They're not predictable at all.
And because somebody in town 600 yards away could put new bird feed and all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't see that buck anymore, but that's what makes it. I don't go knocking to try to get because of how the process is in the town I hunt.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting your kid. I mean, I think that's everybody's like pumped for that, and like I got to go with Damien. I think we went 2 times.
I think so.
Get him out. And one night we were fighting the mosquitoes, and that's what it's all. That's what it's about. I took him out when it was warmer. We had to do a little bit of. I mean, dude, he plowed through the snacks in like 2 minutes. So then I was like, all right, we got another hour and a half before dark. Like we have no more snacks. This is not, Then he starts doing jumping jacks and somersaults in the blind, but. I mean, you got Braden on his first deer with a rifle, and then you were trying to get him on with a bow this year.
Got him on with a bow this year. Just made a bad shot.
But hey,
you got him on one.
That close? I think that's a good shot. That close?
It was.
For that age?
I felt kind of bad on that because I had it set up to where he was hopefully going to have like a 10 to 15 yard shot, which would have been, he was shooting that perfectly like the entire time. And then we're up in a tree stand, and this deer comes in. Just this little buck, but it came to like 4 yards. And so it was like he was shooting so far down at it. And I hadn't had him up in a stand practicing like shooting down on a deer.
Plus, was that his first deer he's actually shot at?
Yeah, that was the first one he's shot at with a bow.
Because he drew back, didn't he? Or he got busted drawn back?
He got busted last year drawn back. But this year he was able to draw back and get the shot off. And he was he rushed it a little bit because I stopped the deer. And like right when I stopped it, he just sent it.
Right.
And so he just hit a little high. It was, way too high, and we couldn't find any blood. I mean, we found very little blood, which didn't surprise me because of where he hit and the arrow didn't exit. Yeah. It was a tough situation. We looked all over for that thing, couldn't find it. I don't know if it died or not, but we looked everywhere, and I'm hoping it's fine. But it was cool though because he had the adrenaline, had the shakes afterwards and everything. It was cool seeing that whole thing. It was just a lot of fun. We were having a blast with it. But
yeah, it was a shot with, dude, honestly, at that age, I didn't hit a deer till I was 28 with a bow. So to do that, he was for that hard of a shot.
Yeah, and
just being the first time you pulled your release on a deer to hit it. Hey, that's. Yeah. I've busted how many broadheads shooting them into a tree. So that's like, hey, It wasn't that, but like for the shot, I really think it could have got it done. But I think
had he hit like just a couple inches lower, he would have been in the money.
But yeah, you don't know when it's sub, because you kind of have to aim a little lower when they're, there's just things you learn after you miss, or you're just like, shit, I hit that one high. But that's just a whole nother level as a dad, though, that I'm excited for. But I feel like I'll also be like way more anxious than anything I've ever, because like I was never afraid to, like sports, anything like that, where you get that like jittery, like anxious feeling.
Yeah,
and when
you're in control,
right?
Yeah.
But when you're starting bow hunting, or even as a kid bow hunting, I had that all the time. Like even just before, it was like a pregame. We're gonna drive out to the hunting spot, So like, I always try to take myself back now that I have a kid, where it's like, what is he thinking about that? Like even going to people's houses, they're like, you were like, heck yeah, we're going in the car, we're going to someone's house, we're getting the hell out of here, and. That's the same, so you think about his perspective of that. That's cool to be able to do that with you. And like, you got him on a hunt. Like a lot of people, when they start out, you might not see deer, you might not get that opportunity. So in his first year to get a few shots or get a shot at one and then get a few encounters where he, or second year bow hunting, right?
Yeah, second year.
Still, that's
what's cool is that last year would have been a perfect shot for him, but ended up drawing too early because he just he saw it coming and didn't have enough cover for when he drew.
Right.
But that deer survived. It was it was a young buck last year, but that was one of the nice 8-pointers this year.
And then Teddy's gonna try to shoot it next
year. I know. I was like, I could still shoot it. If I get a chance at it, I might. But I really should let him go another year. But Teddy will probably shoot him. I'll put a nice ladder stand up for Teddy again and a nice spot for him, and he'll kill it. Right, Ted?
I feel like he was due for that because of how shitty of a guide that I was this year. I took Teddy to those permission spots and he'd not see a deer, and I'm like, dude, I promise.
You hardly saw a deer at most of them.
All right, I mean a couple doe. I shot one doe,
but,
and then
early season's a crapshoot. You guys hunted a lot of early season.
It was sweet the first year I got that spot because of the corn. Hopefully this next year it's corn, and then you got that whole how you hunt things differently and. But yeah, I was like, oh, I hope some of the bucks he was seeing in there. I've never hunted it with beans, but they would go in there when it was corn. The year before, they'd cut into that wetland area.
Yeah,
and it's like a marsh down in there, and then there's that water hole. But he said, and that's the thing. He was like, I'd rather have a chance at a big buck than see a bunch of does. And then he went out. I think he scouted that morning that he went to go sit that.
He went the day before.
Yep. And then he found some sign and he shot a nice buck this year. Yep. So. I think he's so far the cash cow. Jake's got the most animals down.
Jake had the antelope.
Right.
And
then, the antelope might be cash cow.
That was a sweet antelope.
I was going to say, I'll give Jake the cash cow for that antelope. That was
cool. And then he had the one in Missouri on that public land buck, which was sweet.
Should we probably talk about the cash cow first before we
I guess we could talk about that. So on Drawn Outdoors group, every year we always have this running joke of whoever shoots the biggest buck, or really it's kind of like whose videos do the best on YouTube. They're the cash cow.
Because we're getting into it. We don't have very many views, and anybody starting out on YouTube, it's so hard to get yourself to be out there, and you just kind of got to get lucky with a YouTube algorithm. At least that's how I feel with how our whole story is gone with it.
So.
But a lot of the guys that do it too. There's actually a lot of guys out there that you can talk to, even big name guys, and you just have to keep going. That's the thing about it. But I think that it was the first year we did it was the year I shot that.
McMillan.
Yeah, we called that buck. We always tried to decide if we're naming deer or not, and then we ended up naming them. But
the thing is, and I understand why people don't, because it sounds dumb when you're calling these deer names. But when you have so many 8, 9, or 10 pointers,
right.
And you're like, oh yeah, that 1-8 or that 1-9.
If you have a deer, a factory of just I get why the big name guys have to do it for sure.
They have so many deer, so it's hard not to name them, just so that way you know which deer you're talking about.
Yeah, but
we just always talk about having all the names we want to call them, but
they're very profane. Yeah, but what were we talking about? We were talking about the McMillan buck. Yeah. So that was the biggest buck I've ever shot. Yeah. That was the first year we did it, and then that video got 20 something.
That was such a funny scenario because me and Teddy were just finishing up hunting out west. We were about to head back, and Jake was at home, I think, and Ben was hunting. And
Jake was working.
Oh yeah, he was working.
Yep.
And we got a text, and Ben's just like, I just shot a 180, and we're like,
oh yeah,
no, you didn't.
Right.
And then you sent the video, and it was the most picturesque video you could ask for from a buck. If you haven't watched it, go watch it on our Drawnoutdoorstv channel. It's one of our first buck videos. Right. You'll see it. Big 8-pointer. And this buck literally walked right into the perfect spot on this trail for Ben, and he bapped at it, and it just turned its head and looked up, and the rack just looked absolutely massive and perfect, looking right at the camera.
Dude,
and then you heart shot it, just smoked it.
It was it
was so cool.
It was my moment, probably.
Oh, yeah.
But hey, that was the year though that I worked. That was the most I've ever hunted during a rut, and I knew my property there, big deer would come through there if a doe was around. So that year I was like, I'm gonna hunt that whole week. I had my business at the time, so I was able to just shut it down and hunt and pay for it later. Obviously going into winter, but it was a fun hunt. And then, I got you guys on your way back from town. We met out the taxidermist to show you guys. But that was just, I wish I had footage of it when I first saw it when it came, through that trail. But yeah, it was one of our first it
was our first
clear deer videos, because we had like the rib cage one. I didn't have in focus, and that happened so quick.
Yep.
And there was like no B-roll or anything.
Yep.
We actually, had to like piece that thing together. But then Teddy's buck, you were filming around a tree.
Yeah.
So like that was the first time where I was like, okay, I know my shot's here because that's where I shot 2 other deer.
Yeah.
Or 3, and. Yeah, he came. I grunted. That was just a wild. You can go watch that hunt. It's cool.
Yeah, because you just blind grunted and he just came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, it was like one of those mornings where I was about to get down and just go make dino nuggets and drink a bunch of chocolate milk. Just on my pre-dad. Or actually, I just had my son that year, but I was like, my mom was watching my son during that week. And I remember she'd like at the end of the day, she's like, "Who sits in a tree that long?" Like she would always just like, she was so supportive, but she was just like, "Who sits in a tree that long, Ben?" Like, I'm like, "Dude, all day sits, Mom." I'm like trying to convince her, and then that's when I was like,
and I've killed like 11 something, didn't you?
Yeah, dude, I've shot most of my deer have been between 11 and 1.
Yeah,
like
which that's what they say a lot of times. They say the big bucks get killed the most like around like the late morning and early afternoon. So
yep. Yeah, dude. And that's like the deer I shot this year. He was like, I went and I had to do a furnace cleaning.
Oh yeah.
This is how urban this sounds, and it's going to sound easy to you guys, but you don't know how much I go through to get these deer at this. I'm basically sitting on 3 acres, just hoping a deer is going to come to my side of where I'm, hunting. But yeah, I went and had a furnace appointment to get it cleaned, because they just trap you in when you buy the furnace. They're like, every year you'll lose your warranty, and you're just like, yeah, just sign us up for it, do whatever. But had that, and then I put my son down for a nap, and it was like, I'll make some food, and I'm like, no, we're still in that November where I should get down there and just, and it's like 12:16.
Yeah,
go out the back door, get in the blind, and like as I'm screwing in my camera mount, look over at the gate, and there's another, that's happened to me how many times where midday. So but yeah, that was a fun hunt, and I shot that deer, wasn't in the blind for 2 minutes, but obviously I saw that deer a couple times, never really had a shot at him, but it worked out, but I forget where we were leading with that McMillan story. We were talking about YouTube and just grinding, but the cash cow, that's what it was, the cash cow.
Yeah. That's where that came from.
That's where that came from. Was the McMillan episode?
Was it you or Jake?
I was just running my mouth. You know how Jake and I just. I was like, I'm the cash cow.
Because that video was doing well,
right?
Like,
and
that
dude,
was
I
our
was
first
probably
video
drinking.
That actually was. Well, yeah. I mean, that's
just going McGregor on the text.
Oh yeah. If people saw some of our text message,
sometimes we just, there's days where we wake up and just lay into each other.
Violence.
Yeah, we just like Jake and I are just like freaking, you peed the bed too much, or anything, dude. You're just at each other, and that's another level of makes it fun doing it with people, because like you get to see all sides of everybody.
Yeah, it's fun giving each other shit, and then like it's in you get your shit back, and you just take it. It's just fun. Like that's the whole good time about it. But I love those.
Yeah, that's where cash cow came from, and then every season we've done this now, we always like, oh, who's the cash cow this year? Who had the best hunt, or because then you're kind of, in a way, you put a little competition in it.
Yeah,
I think Teddy for whitetail, he's the cash cow.
Yeah, he's cash cow for whitetail for sure.
Right, and that was his cash cow, and then Jake, that antelope, that's still something I've never done.
Yeah,
and
dude, antelope hunting's fun.
Anything that I'm gonna go try, I'm probably gonna be just obsessed with. So then I want to kind of see what year I'll do that. I mean, maybe next year, the year after, I'll go do that, but.
I wouldn't mind just going out and just doing public land for antelope out in western Nebraska. Like, yeah, it's going to be a shit show because there's tons of people, but there's so much area to cover out there. And it's like, the fun thing about antelope hunting that I like over deer is you can find antelope because they're just standing out in the open. Deer.
You can find water too.
Yeah, like deer, you have to. You're trying to get into these areas and you can't see the deer. You're just trying to get to where you think they are. Where antelope, you see them. Now you just got to figure out how to go kill them.
Right.
So you're actually seeing them. It's just a matter of.
But they're wiry though, right?
Oh yeah, and they can see so well. So you have to have. And this was something I learned when me and Jake went antelope hunting this year, and it was all spot and stock. Was you have to just keep going until you find an antelope in the right spot. If they're not in a spot that you can stalk on, like you don't have some sort of ridge or something like that, to where when you get like to this ridge, you're only going to be like 30 to 60 yards away. Don't even try. Like it's not worth trying unless you're going to be able to get a shot like at whatever distance you want to get. Like if they're in just the middle of a flat open field, you have no chance.
Yeah, you got
now I will say
too, right?
If you're rifle hunting for antelope, you should kill an antelope every single time.
When does that open? Is that like around that?
Rifle doesn't open in Nebraska until October, I don't think.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, rifle, like you could kill an antelope with a rifle all day. I feel like I don't know. We've never done it, but just from when we're bow hunting them, you can get within 150 yards of an antelope pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we ever, I know Jake's been putting in now for an antelope rifle tag
because that one's a draw.
That's a draw in Nebraska. But yeah, so I think you can kill a nice antelope with a rifle pretty easily. But bow is a total different thing. You either got to be on the one water source or you got to be spot and stock. But I tell you what, it's fun.
You got to do both this year, though. You got to go do both. Jake, Nebraska, he's got one spot in Nebraska where you guys mainly sit that box blind.
Which was great, but there was too much water this year everywhere. And if there's too much water around, if there's a blind on a water hole, they just won't come to it.
Right.
That's just kind of what we figured out. But yeah, the spot and stock in Colorado, that was cool. The spot and stock in Colorado was fun. I'll talk about more about that.
That'd be cool to chop it up with Jake on that one for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to for sure.
Because you can always tell your hunt the best, because and that's the other thing is just sharing hunting stories with people. That's another thing we love doing. I've heard
that's part of the reason I want to start this podcast because I want to hear people's stories. I want to hear their crazy stories that they've had. Like I remember growing up, my uncle, like we used to go hunting with him, and he always told the wildest stories. And I'm sure half the time they weren't even true. But it was like they were so funny and just so wild, and it was just a riot listening to them. And so it's like that's one of the main reasons I want to start a podcast is so I could talk to people and hear about all these stories. Like I think that's the fun part about talking with people.
What age do you think you just start churching up your hunting story? Like 40? You're just like, hey, now I'm going to add this to it, and then like that's when your kids start. Then you can make it seem like
that's true.
I only had one arrow left, and I freaking
sent it 150 yards.
Yeah.
I know, it's true. I wonder what age we'll get to where we start.
Because I've heard some wild stories from when I had deer camp when I was younger, some of the guys, this guy shot it, You're just like, no freaking way that happened. But
my wildest hunting story myself personally was the first year I took Braden and Paige deer hunting, and it was rifle because that was before I bow hunted, and we were hunting the same spot that I always hunted. It was public land. It was just this wide open area. You would never think there's a deer anywhere around, but for whatever reason, they just always use this area to kind of pass through properties. And we're sitting there. We had seen one deer like the night before, and then we were sitting there just in this ground blind, just basically out in the open. Like it was just like really dumb hunting, but we're with a rifle.
Right. It works actually. Sometimes.
So I see we're sitting there. It's the last evening. We haven't seen nothing. And Braden's only 5 years old, so he's starting to get pretty bored and stuff. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, we're not seeing anything. Like, it'd be fun to see something. It's his first time. And then I look over to my right, and I see this deer. I see these antlers. And it was, like, way down. There's a lake there, and then there's this little, like, kind of creek that kind of came to it. And I see this deer way down there. I'm like, oh, there's a deer. And so I just grab my gun. I get down on my knees. I know this shot is super long, and I know it's way out there. So I'm like, I know my bullet's going to drop, but I have no idea exactly how far it is. So the deer was walking straight away from me, so I aimed right at the bottom of its neck, and I just shot. And I was shooting a 30-06, so I shoot, and they weren't able to see because I was kind of in front of them across them because they were on the opposite side of the blind. So I shoot. And then I look, and I don't see anything. I'm like, okay, I have no idea if I hit or not. I'm like, well, this is the only chance we were going to have anything, so let's go look. So we get in the truck. We have to drive all the way around back to go get in there. And we go walking up to where I'm like, okay, it's got to be right over here. And I'm just walking in. There's a bunch of pine trees there. And so I'm just like looking kind of in the pines. And then all of a sudden I look right in front of me, and it was right in front of me, like 3 feet away. Scared the shit out of me. Like I jumped backwards. And I was like, oh, my God, it's dead.
That's sweet.
I had shot somehow. I mean, it was just pure luck. But like I said, I shot the back of its neck, and my bullet had dropped, and it went right down through the top of its back and straight out the front of its chest.
Dude.
And there was just like spinal fluid and blood everywhere. It just dropped right there. It was the most lucky, insane shot I've ever had. And it was the funnest experience because Paige and Braden were both there for the first time.
Right.
And it was so cool. But that was my wildest hunting story I've ever had.
Right, dude. But that's what makes, like, the way, obviously you're telling it, you can picture it. But that's what makes it fun about filming, and anybody that's getting into it, you know, like just to have it for yourself, like even if you're not sharing it with people.
You can, and that's, you have that memory.
Yeah, and there's a lot like evolving with that, you know, in filming. You know, there's a lot of people that film YouTube hunts, and obviously there's a lot of, I mean, you could be just as broke doing the filming side of things as you are with hunting. Yeah, dude, I was going to say, it's just
look
like
both of us, we spend so much money on camera stuff. Yeah,
once you know, though, what you want to use and how you want your stuff to look, then you're just like, all right, let's save up, let's get this. And then it's cool to see when you're watching people start out. Like, I've even seen that with other shows or people, you know, it's like, hey, they got a new camera, they got their editing's getting good, and that's fun to watch, and that's where, you know, you hope that overall the hunting community, I think, is great to be a part of, because a lot of people are encouraging, et cetera, but, you know.
I love helping people with that stuff. Like, I've had multiple people message me asking, like, questions about cameras and stuff like that. And I love helping people and telling them, like, all the details about stuff like that, and, like, helping them in any way I can. Like, I think it's weird when people don't want to help people, because it's like they think that they're trying to, like, get secret information out of them, or trying to get like, so their stuff's going to be better. It's like, dude, just help the people out.
People are going to figure it out. You're not the only one that's figured it out, you know, and that's the thing that
I love it. I nerd out over it. I love when people ask me questions like that. I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, what do you want to know? I'll tell you anything and everything.
Right. Even if your stuff that you come out with looks similar, or you have kind of the same ideas. Like, I grew up when you were, like, watching the TV Guide, and it was like, hey, I might get to watch, you know, Bone Collector at the time on at 7:30 if I get back from baseball in time, you know, like. So now we have it at our fingertips with YouTube, and, like, that's one thing that once we started the drone stuff, you're sitting there, and there is always, like, somebody, whether it's a bot or it's like a real person, you're just like, dude, like, what is your like, why are you commenting that, you know, like, and it's just like, who's got that much? But that's the thing too, though. You know, I encourage people to comment on anything, like even this, if you're throwing it on YouTube, like, interject if you got something that you want to, you know, like, hey, I've done this before, or what, you know, it's cool. That's a fun thing about when you put a video out and people are commenting and like asking about stuff, and that's one thing where, like,
that happened with the McMillan episode. You had multiple people asking what camera you were on and stuff like that. Like,
and it was just not even like that good of a camera at the time, but it worked. And then you just, like, that's another thing. Like, as I've, you know, hopefully in the edits I've done, you can see progression in it, and so you're like, I just like learning from people with that stuff. And so then you sit there, and there's just, like, parts of hunting where you're like, man, there's so many people that aren't receptive, you know, like we should be welcoming people to come do all this stuff, you know, and, like, obviously we all want more public land. You want your own spots. You don't want, you know, I think a lot of people don't want that many hunters out there, because then their spot could get taken, or, you know, everybody's had a spot they've lost, or, you know, but at the same time, like, we're all trying to go enjoy ourselves. And that's one thing that we all need to be doing something for ourselves. You know, that's my escape. I know that's the same. You got we all have other hobbies. Obviously, this isn't our full-time job to do this stuff, but obviously we would love to do that. But it's like, for me, I feel like it's something that I needed, like, a goal to go toward. So then when we started filming stuff, and, like, you just challenge yourself more and more. Right. That's how I've always worked. Like, when you're playing baseball, you're like, all right, I want to get to the state championship. When I fought, I was like, okay, I'm not going to obviously lose a fight, but then I want to keep getting to where I'm going with it. And then once I stopped doing that, it's like, literally, Tasia bought me a bow that winter, and was like, we were up at the bargain cave when they had that at Cabela's. I was like, dude, there's a Fred bow here for $189, like, full setup. Yeah. And I knew a lot about bows, because I had some, but I just pawned them to get rent money at the, you know, like, when you're in college and
back
stuff.
When you're poor.
Yeah. I mean, not back when, you know, but but she bought me the bow, and I remember getting arrows, like, 4 weeks after I got the bow. Like, I never even shot it, really. And then I got arrows at Walmart at the end of the year for, like, $250 an arrow. Yeah. And, like, that was my whole setup. And I sold that to my buddy Mike, who I've known over half my life. He's, like, one of my best friends. And I sold it to him, and he actually went and did a few archery shoots with me. And, like, nice. I still have a goal to, like, get him out with it, because like, I killed my first buck with that bow. Yeah. But that just taught me that, like, it doesn't matter about the gear. Obviously, you have confidence in certain things. Like, we all love wearing Sitka.
There's a difference between a good gear can make a difference, but you can still get the job done with cheap gear.
And how many things you could buy, though, like, if you bought less cheap stuff and just went and bought the but same thing with cheap, like, on those bear bows, like, sometimes I'm like, dang, that was actually one of the bows that I liked shooting the most. But then you sit there and you're like, oh, I want to upgrade to this bow. And you like, but I guess that's the thing with like how I started out and what, I started out with like old camo from like Jake got the coat I wore when I shot my first deer from a church clothing drive.
Right.
And like, we were just like, hey, this is camo. Can we take this? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. But like, it's cool. I always want to go back and like not have, because we went and bought Sitka. All of us bought Sitka in the last couple of years just because like, I
was tired of getting cold.
Right.
That was my main reason.
Right.
Like, I was an anti-Sitka guy, and I was like never gonna wear it. And then like for some reason, like the last couple of years I was hunting, I was getting so cold, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I cannot get warm. I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna go buy it and just be done with it. And I love it. I'm
you got it.
Now I'm a Sitka lover. I know it's terrible, but you buy once, cry once, and it's comfy clothing. It's expensive. I don't buy it full price. I wait till there is sales on it. But once you buy it and you're comfy and warm, and whatever you're hunting, they've got all the different systems for whether you're spot and stock, you're Western hunting, you're in a tree stand. Like I don't have it all. I've got the stuff that I know I need, and I'll just slowly get more pieces as it goes. But it's well worth every penny. Now that I have a good setup of it.
Well, and then that's what we have a couple videos on our YouTube of like what we wear, what we've bought. Yeah. And so like that we found is helping out other people because
then you're not having to buy every single piece. Like you get the certain pieces that are important that make a difference. So you're not spending $2,000 on all this stuff. You can get away with getting half the stuff that you need, and you're going to be just as comfy. Yeah,
reviewing like all those review videos. Like there's obviously a ton of them out there, but at the same time, like, you kind of get a feel for what people actually, because if you were really going to do it and you just like filled your whole cart up and you spent like 10 grand,
like 10 grand,
yeah. But if you're trying to like, hey, I want to maybe spend like $800 on my whole season of stuff, which was still, you buy the right pieces, that'll get you can hunt a lot of stuff in that. That's where I was sold on it, was just the quality and stuff. But I just remember I would go to Shields and just be like, dude, there's no way I'll spend $560 on this jacket.
It's like, there's no way I'll never.
And then obviously we didn't like getting discounts, and then there's a lot of pages out there where they throw a code up or whatever. But
what pisses me off is I worked at Shields and I never bought a single like piece of hunting clothing while I worked there, and I could have got it all half off.
Different stages in life, dude. Yeah, I know. I was like that's the one thing with it though. Like once I bought it and then I started wearing it, and I have a ton of like real, really nice Realtree and stuff that like I used to love wearing, and I bring it back. You know how I like to do those throwback where I'm going to use my other bow and I'm going to throw this stuff on. And don't get me wrong, I love that. I still have a Realtree piece that I would wear all the time. Yeah. And I have a decent mossy oak one too that was like an early season one that was really comfortable and never got hot. But once I bought the Sitka stuff, that was obviously kind of my. And you just feel cool. Yeah. You just feel cool. And then they always like, what's those Instagram pages where the guy, they're
hunting
like,
douche.
Yeah. Where they're like establish dominance in a public setting. Like,
dude, I saw a guy
sometimes
yesterday.
You have to do that.
I saw a guy at church yesterday he was wearing like a Sitka Stratus jacket, and I was like, oh, look at this guy.
But also,
I was wearing my Sitka hat, so I was like, all right, whatever.
Like, hey, we're brothers here.
Yeah,
but
we're alphas.
Yeah. But then also, like, look at that guy. Like,
look
what's
at
he
this
doing?
cuck.
I know. I bought a lot of the streetwear just for my main thing's comfort in clothes anymore. Like,
it really is.
It doesn't matter if it's got a logo on it to me. If it's just like comfortable and good material and stuff that I don't know. I wore a lot of hand-me-down, from my uncles and stuff. But that was good investments we made, and we all match too. That's the other thing. We were just making fun of ourselves about.
Cool when we're hunting now.
I would just love to.
I'd hate to be the guy.
Yeah, don't mess with us. Yeah, dude. But that's the thing that you learn the hard way a lot in hunting. Yeah. Like I've had times where my toes were just about to fall off.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, dude, I'm never wearing these boots.
Yeah.
Next season, never doing this again. And then you save up, invest in it, and you learn, where it's worth it
to
put the
your
money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But that's what's cool. We started doing those videos just because, like, we've always tried to be relatable. Yeah. Because like we were literally, we're not, doing this. Yeah, we're just doing this for fun, straight up.
Yeah, it's really fun. That's really what it is more than anything.
Yeah, and I've always like said like, I want to, someday I'd love to film hunt and do that. Like I always had those like goals.
Oh yeah.
And then now we're doing it, and I'm like, this is what made hunting it took a lot of the craziness out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like me with a camera, like me without a camera, I get a lot more like target panicky.
Mm-hmm.
But like now that I'm like, all right, film it, you just take that out of there. And then after you shoot and you get it on camera, it makes it that much cooler. And then you also have like, okay, I can look at this shot. Like,
that's another thing that's really nice about filming is being able to see the shot. Like when I shot that one last year, that 6-pointer or whatever it was, like right at dark. Like I had a feeling my shot was bad when I shot it, and then when I looked back on it, I was like, oh, that's not good.
Right, dude. This year when I hit, that was the one I hit bad.
Yeah.
Like within the first 3 seconds on the video, I'm just like cussing. And I'm like, dude, you know in that moment. But then when you're trying to explain to people, because like, hey, you're going to have your buddy come out and track. They're going to be like, where'd you shoot it? And you're like, oh, I think here. And then it's like, you don't know. Now when you have footage, you can be like, look, dude. And then you show them, they're like, hey, we got to give it time. It's like, it's another tool.
It is,
in this day and age of hunting. Like we literally we can scan maps on our phone. You can check all different sorts of weather stuff. Like it'd be fun to just take technology out of a hunt and go do it.
Yeah.
But then like, I'd want to show that, you know, like you'd have to take a camera, obviously, but it's just another tool as you're bow hunting, because bow hunting is chaos when it happens. And then you're like, wait, where did I hit the deer? Where, which way did it go? Where should I look for first blood? Like you add that. So even just throwing a Tacticam on your bow or something, you got something. That's how you and Teddy got that first
buck he shot video. Was with the Tacticam on it. Yep.
Right. But then that same thing with Braden's deer, you were able to look where he shot it.
Yep.
So, yeah, man, I don't know. It's just, I'm glad we're doing all this, and it's cool now that you're adding this pod to the new thing you want to start doing, and I'm all about coming on whenever you'll have me.
You're welcome to come on anytime. I'm pretty much going to shoot one a week every Monday, no matter what. So, hopefully, I'll have people on every time, but. You're always welcome to come be a co-host or even if we don't have anybody else, it's just going to be us just BSing on some other topic.
Yeah,
so.
Or you could just let the people decide, too, if they're like, hey, get that guy the fuck off your podcast.
Yeah, that guy that was on last week, don't have him again.
We could have had it. That was a bold strategy, throwing me on first, but we'll see where the ratings go.
Oh, no, it'll be good. Yeah. I think anybody's going to always enjoy listening to a podcast that I've had like at least 12 people listen so far. So obviously people love me.
Hey.
They love me.
You got to start somewhere. Same thing with our drawn, dude. I got screenshots of us with like 50 subs, dude. I'm like, we made it.
Yeah.
We're there.
We're there.
We're close to 1,000, guys.
We are getting close to 1,000.
I'm just going to genuinely ask people if you do see this and like just take your grandma's phone and go to Drawn Outdoors YouTube page and just like hit sub. We need it. We're trying to get to 1,000.
We're on Instagram.
It's a grind,
we're on
and man, every bit of that's fun though to like see it grow and But again, same thing with this. We'll see.
We're having fun. We're having fun with just doing whatever we can.
Yeah, you might look back and be like, dude, that first episode when I was like, Ben should never come back on my podcast ever again.
No,
we'll see though.
Heck no, it'll be fun. I always enjoy having people on because then it's just fun to be able just to sit around and hang out. We're just hanging out more than anything, so that's kind of what I look forward to. But we've been going for a little over an hour, so we don't want to bore everybody for 2 or 3 hours yet.
The only other thing we didn't touch on and it's a quick topic, but dude, I think Bennett, his son Bennett, he's built for all day sits already.
He's a maniac. Like, he's like, I don't even know. He's a different breed.
I just saw his bow, so that's why I had to bring it in. Like,
that was not even his. That's Kennedy's.
Okay.
But no, I put my saddle platform on the tree back there, and he uses it as a tree stand. I put a bow hanger, so he hangs his bow up, and then I put my camera arm up, and I've got that little handy cam on there now. So now he literally goes out there and films, grabs his bow, and shoots his big bucks. Then he brings him and shows us.
And he's like 4, right?
4 years old, yeah. Almost 5.
Hey, he's about it.
Yeah. That kid's going to be way cooler and kill way more stuff than I ever will.
Yeah, dude, my kid's 3, and he's not ready to sit for an hour yet. But like he's about it. Like he'll fake deer hunt all the time.
Give it another year or two, you're gonna be right in the same boat. Right. And I can't wait. It's so fun. Like I know it's gonna get to the point where I probably won't even be killing stuff anymore. I'm just gonna be going with him, and I don't even care. Like to me, that'll be just as fun. So.
Right.
But
dude,
we can talk about that more next podcast because obviously we're gonna have you back on again. Regardless, we've got plenty of stuff we can talk about, and I've got a ton of topics we can talk about too. And it's always fun to have conversations with at least one other person on some of the topics. So
no doubt.
So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for coming on, Ben. We'll do this again hopefully in the next week or two and see if we have somebody else on with us. I'm trying to get Jake on here. I'm going to get Teddy on here, and I got a bunch of other people lined up that I'm hopefully going to get on. So thanks for listening, or you can find this on Obviously, Spotify, Apple. I think I might have it on Pandora now. There's a couple other ones. It went on pretty much every streaming platform. And then you can also watch the full video on YouTube. And then I'm working on trying to get the videos onto like Spotify too, so you can watch it on there too when you're listening if you want. But obviously that's not quite as important. But yeah, find it pretty much anywhere. Thanks for watching or listening. This is the second episode of Pins and Crosshairs, and we'll catch you next time.